Hey, Autumn Athletes, Larry Sorensen here, and today I'm going to talk with Rich Wetzel and find out what makes him an Autumn Athlete that's not done yet. But before we get started, as always, if you enjoy our content, please like, subscribe, and ding that bell for notifications. Okay, let's get this thing started. Rich, why don't you start us off by telling us a little about yourself?
Well, first of all, thank you, Larry, for having me on. I appreciate it. It was very kind of you to ask and offer to do this. I'm 62 years old. I am 6 feet 2 inches tall, 230 pounds. I'm a professional trumpet player, musician. Over the years, I've been doing everything from playing in the military to teaching a little bit. I played on cruise ships, on road bands with star shows, Motown groups. But during that path, and also I had a corporate sales career when I wanted to get off the road, so to speak. Um, During all these years, back in 1980, right, in the early 80s, I kind of got into the little bit of weightlifting. I was running cross country. That's when all the Rocky movies were coming out and all the Schwarzenegger movies and all that stuff. So that was kind of the first thing that lit my fire. And stayed pretty active running cross country, lifting weights a bit. Was in really great shape through my 20s and 30s. And then, like a lot of people, by my 40s, I was becoming obsessed with my corporate career. I was staying late at the office, started drinking too many beers and cocktails and hanging out with the bosses. And then when I turned 50, I just said, all right, there's no reason I can't get back in shape again if I really want to do it. So I did. And within a year, I turned it around. And at 55, I focused more on bodybuilding, and that's become a big passion of mine. So I compete in amateur NPC bodybuilding shows in the men's masters category, Autumn, if you will, over 50, now over 60. And I retired a couple of years ago from my day job. So now I pretty much go to the gym in the morning. I train for these bodybuilding shows. I still play music. I'm active as a musician. And that's the quick overview.
Going back a little bit to starting your fitness journey back in the 80s, what really got you started and what inspired you to get going in athletics at a young age?
So, in high school, everybody plays some sports and, you have the PE, physical education classes, all that stuff. And then in the Army, of course, they make you train a lot and do a lot of physical stuff. But the thing that really lit my fire was my friends and I started seeing all those Rocky movies, and that was like the peak of it. And then the Schwarzenegger movies. And so there was a guy in the band who was into bodybuilding, and we went and started hanging out with him at the gym and lifting weights. And of course, the Army wants you to run a lot too, so not just lift weights. So we were splitting the difference. Like we would lift weights on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then we would go on long runs on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And that's kind of how it all started. And I started getting some pretty good abs, and I was kicking everybody's butt on the PT tests, and I just kind of loved doing it. And that's really what started it all.
You were talking earlier about then, life sort of happened, and then going into 50s, you decided to turn it around. So what inspired you, or who inspired you, if anybody, to make that adjustment in your lifestyle?
It was actually a couple things. One, in my 40s, I knew I was getting out of shape and overweight, and it was always weighing in the back of my mind. And then I saw guys who were older who were doing it, like Michael Hearn, and you could see Sylvester Stallone still staying in great shape, and all these other guys. And then also I had produced the Tacoma Jazz and Blues Festival for about 15 years. And the breaking point, this is funny, some old Army buddies of mine came, and they knew me back in the day, and they're like, Rich, what happened to you? So I said, all right, this is going to stop. I'm going to change. There's no reason I can't do it. And basically, I just cleaned up my diet. I cut out the alcohol and the sugar and the junk food, started eating healthy, got back to the gym, and just made a concerted effort that I was going to have great abs again. I was going to really have fun and take care of the rest of my life. And I think this time I appreciated my health and fitness even more than I did when I was younger and I was into it, because now I knew what it was like to get away from it, and now coming back to it, I just feel great, and I'm loving it and having fun doing it.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your personal best achievements here in the masters bodybuilding world?
I was 55 years old, and a friend of mine and his wife were training with a professional bodybuilder. I knew I always wanted to do that, and they were making some amazing amounts of progress. And so I thought, well, when I wanted to become a better musician, a better trumpet player, I went and studied with some of the great trumpet players. Well, why wouldn't I do that with bodybuilding? So I went to this guy and said, forget everything I think I know. Teach me the best way to train. Teach me the best way to approach my nutrition. And let's really go at this. So a year into it, a lot of guys in the gym were like, dude, you look great. You should go compete and do one of these shows. And they kind of talked me into it. And I thought, well, all right, I'll go do it. Leading up to that first show, I almost chickened out at the last second, right? I get close to it and I'm like, oh, you mean I'm going to walk around on the stage wearing this little pair of nothing, you know? And my wife says, you've been training so hard, just go do the damn show. And it's not like you're the only one up there wearing those trunks. Everybody's wearing them. So I went and I did it, and I got first place in the Masters over 50. Mm-hmm. And I entered the open class just for the heck of it, and I got second, which was kind of a trip. Then I did another show and another. And before you knew it, every year since then, other than COVID, I've done, like 6 or 7 shows a year, and I've mostly got first place, some seconds and thirds and stuff like that. But in the local and regional shows, I've done really well. Then I had some friends encourage me to keep going, and I got with another great coach, and I did a couple national shows where my goal is to try and get a pro card in the Masters category. Mm-hmm. And I've gotten close. I got as high as second place in one of the national shows. And to get your pro card, you have to win first in your class, and then age bracket and weight class. But you also have to win first place in the overall in that division. So I'm getting there, and I'm going to try again this summer with 2 shows, one at the NPC Universe in New Jersey in July 5th, I think it is, and then a couple of weeks later at the Masters Nationals in Pittsburgh.
Tell us a little bit about how you train in the off season. If you really have an off season, 6 or 7 shows a year is a lot of shows. But if you have an off season, and or how you train during competition, and certainly in your prep for a competition.
There were years where I did so many shows, there really wasn't an off season. But my training remains the same year round. What changes is my focus on my diet. So that's really the big difference. So when I first started lifting seriously 7 years ago, because now I'm 62, in the beginning, I was doing a 4-day split routine, and it was kind of organized in a way that like Dorian Yates would do it, just with 4 days and then just high intensity. And then at some point, I started doing 5 days a week, but having a bonus day, just hitting an area that I really wanted to concentrate on. And last year, I got with a new coach and started doing what's called a push-pull leg split. So I'm in the gym 6 days a week now, and basically you're hitting everything twice a week. So on my leg day, I'll do shoulders and legs. Then on my push day, I'm doing chest and triceps. On my pull day, I'm doing back and biceps. At the end of every day except leg day, I will also do abs. So I'll do like 3 sets of 20 sit-ups on a decline board at a moderate angle. And I find that that's all you really need to have great abs, because if it's a little bit of exercise to develop the muscle, and it's the diet that shows the muscle. Mm-hmm. So what changes when I'm in prep is usually about 3 months before the first competition, I get super strict. No more once a week cheeseburgers, or, my wife will bake something or have a little ice cream, and, in the off season, I'll say, all right, I'll have some today. So I get really strict, and I eat basically a healthy whole foods diet. Every meal has some kind of protein: eggs, chicken, fish, beef, bison, whatever, veggies, however you like to cook them, some easily digestible complex carbohydrates like jasmine rice or sweet potatoes or something like that. Drink mostly water throughout the day and with my meals. But basically that's it. I just dial it in. And then working with my coach, I'm checking in every single week, sending them updated pictures, my updated weight. I'll go get my body fat tested, and we'll make adjustments as we go, as we move along that path towards those shows.
When you're stage ready, what do you generally hover around for a body fat percentage?
When I'm actually ready to go for a show, I want to be as close to 5% as I can get. So I usually get down around 6%, somewhere in that range, which has been good for me. Every once in a while, I see some guy who comes in at 3 and it just blows my mind. right? It's like, it's so hard to do. And then in the off season, I try to stay within striking distance. Like, I don't want to let myself go past 11 or 10, 12% body fat. So I've known guys who would just go nuts and they would bulk like crazy. And my mind just can't handle that. My ego, I don't know what it is, my vanity, whatever. This one guy in particular, I love this guy. His name is John Ott. He's a great bodybuilder. And in the off season, he would gain so much weight. He's eating like crazy. He's lifting like crazy. And you look at the guy like, no way he's going to be ready for a show.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow he dropped like 30 pounds and he'd come in just peeled at the show. I don't want to make it that hard. So I try to stay close to it and try to bulk up a little bit, gain a little weight, but not so far that it's going to be a monumental effort to get back to stage ready.
A little bit more of a consistent lifestyle, it sounds like, versus just the all-out bulk and prep kind of routine that many
Some guys take
bodybuilders
both to an extreme. I
Yeah.
try to make it more consistent.
Yeah. So have you had any kind of setbacks along the way in this new bodybuilding journey of yours?
That's a good question. Actually, I've had two over the last 7 years. Still working at the time. I was on the road as a district sales manager for a large musical instrument manufacturer. And I knew I'd worked out too many days in a row. I was feeling tired. And I set up for this trade show early in the morning, and it wasn't going to kick off till that night. And so I had the afternoon free. And I thought, well, I'm in the middle of Montana. I'm in Missoula, Montana. I'll just go find the gym and I'll go lift. So I get to the gym. I don't know any of the people there, and too stupid to ask somebody to spot me. I get over on the bench press, and it was 315, but it wasn't moving. Like, I brought it down and I was kind of getting stuck and I got pissed. So I threw it up like really fast and it slips out of my hand, right? And like at the top, not down to the bottom. So it goes up out of my left hand. And in your mind, you're thinking, well, I'll just throw one side up, the bar will hit the ground, I'll be okay. It was on me before I knew it. And the next thing I remember, I'm on the ground on all fours and I'm wheezing, just trying to breathe. And some guy said somehow I threw the bar off of me, and everyone runs over. We're trying to convince me I'm okay. And I call my coach. He starts laughing at me like, oh, you probably just bruised yourself. Well, I walk out and I feel my ribs start crunching. I'm like, that's not good. He says, go to the pharmacy, get some ibuprofen. I go to the pharmacy. The lady looks at me like, are you okay? I just need these. And then by the time I got to the car, I couldn't even turn the steering wheel. And it was one of the only business trips I had somebody from my company with me. So I call my buddy. He takes me to the hospital. I broke 4 ribs. And the doctor says, you're really lucky. And I go, I don't feel lucky. He says, well, your rib could have gone through your heart or your lung on that side.
Yeah.
So long story short, though, I competed in a show 2.5 weeks later, because I couldn't train or anything, but I just stayed on my diet. And then I did all my poses, to my right side where I could actually move. And I avoided doing anything on the left side as much as I could because it hurt like hell. And I still won my class. Wow. So, yeah. And then after the show, I told the judges and they were just laughing their butts off. They're like, you got to be kidding me, man. So that was a setback. So for like 6 weeks, I couldn't lift at all. Then I had to gradually get back into it. The other thing that happened, and this was life-changing, a good bit of advice I would like to share with older athletes. One of the most common things that messes up older bodybuilders, weightlifters, is a rotator cuff injury, right? Mm-hmm. So, I had an instance of it happening once, and I backed off and I healed, and then it happened again. And I had 2 tears this time. I had a 4mm tear and an 8mm tear. And I was in agony, absolute agony, to the point where I'm thinking about doing the surgery, right? So I go to an orthopedic surgeon, and he tells me his number one moneymaker is guys doing flat barbell bench press and having their arms out too wide, bringing the bar all the way down to their chest. So now these shoulder muscles are in the weakest position possible. And when you're going heavy, it's real easy to tear them. So he tells me that. Then I talked to 2 professional bodybuilders I knew, and they told me they hadn't done a flat barbell bench press in over 12 years for that same reason. I'm like, what do you mean? Don't you have to do it? They go, no, there's better exercises to do. So they told me to start doing, and I did this, start doing seated hammer strength decline press, because the way the machine's set up, you can't screw it up. You can't go in the wrong position.
Mhm.
So it's seated hammer strength decline, seated hammer strength incline, followed by pec deck, and then cable flies. My chest grew bigger doing that than anything I'd ever done before, and I've been injury free ever since.
Mhm.
So the moral of the story is, think of the safer, better exercises to preserve your shoulders as we get older.
You were talking about your prep work and so forth. You never really mentioned, do you do cardio during the year, or do you use that as part of your prep, or is cardio just you just accomplish that through your actual weight training and perhaps your interval speed and so forth?
I think there's a little bit of truth to doing that during your weightlifting, but also I'll do a moderate amount of low impact cardio year round. And then as I know I'm prepping for a show, I will increase the amount of cardio. So year round, I'm always going to do at least, 10 or 15 minutes, go ride the bike or walk on the treadmill or something. And then when I know I'm getting ready for a show, I'll bump it up to a half hour. And usually it'll be walking on the treadmill instead of riding the bike. And I'll set it on a pretty good clip, like 3.0 angle or 3.5 angle, 3.0 speed or 3.5 speed, and do it for 30 minutes. So I definitely step it up when I'm prepping for a show.
Tell us what keeps you motivated at this point in life to do this.
I think a few things. One, it just feels good. You feel healthy. You want to look good. Also, I get a kick out of just being age defying, looking better than people expect a guy my age to look. And I get a kick out of the fact that a lot of the young guys in the gym are just blown away. Like, you got to be kidding me, man. And it's fun. It's fun, and then doing the shows is fun. You kind of get a camaraderie with the other athletes that you see at a lot of the different shows and same shows. So all of that combined just makes it where I just want to keep doing it.
If you could go back and do anything a little differently, would you do things differently in regards to your health and fitness?
Yeah, I wouldn't have taken my 40s off away from health and fitness. I would have just stuck with it. That's one thing I do tell the younger guys. I said, if I could share with you a life lesson I learned so you don't go through that, just keep doing it. So when I see these guys in their 20s and 30s that are in great shape, they're training their butts off, like, don't take a decade off like I did. Just stay with it. Be consistent. So if I could redo anything, that would be the one thing I would redo.
Tell us, do you have a secret sauce that you can share with the audience?
Keeping my protein high, higher than, I intuitively used to think I should. Don't completely be afraid of carbs, especially in the off season. Carbs are our friend to a certain degree. I will cut my carbs in half when I'm really trying to cut closer to a show. So for example, instead of having a full cup of rice with each meal, I might have half a cup of rice, that kind of thing. I'm not paranoid about eating bread, but in the off season, if I want a little bit of bread occasionally, I'll eat it. Mm-hmm. But mostly for my carbs, I'm eating something like rice or sweet potatoes or something like that. In the morning, I like to have a protein shake that is 12 ounces of liquid egg whites with 2 scoops of mutant mass protein, which is one of the higher protein powders in terms of protein. And it's got some BCAAs and stuff in there. So that shake ends up being over 100 grams of protein, just that one shake. Yeah. And then you have several meals throughout the day with chicken, fish, steak, beef, bison, whatever. And you're going to easily be up around 300 grams of protein a day, which is where I'm trying to be. I weigh 227 pounds right now, and usually I compete right around that weight. I've gone as low for some shows as like 218, 215, and I've been as high on some shows as 235. But if I could be somewhere between 218 and where I am now, right at 227, somewhere in that range, is usually when I get my body fat low enough and I still hang on to some muscle and I feel good about it.
Tell us a little bit about your musician career.
I am a professional trumpet player, and I obviously played all through school. And then I went in the military, in the U.S. Army band, to earn money for college. And so I was stationed in Europe, played all over Europe, got out of the Army, went to college, music degree, went out and I played on cruise ships, road bands. I did a little bit of teaching. At some points along the way, a couple times I got off the road and had a normal day job, but I was still playing locally. Then I would go back out and just play full time. I had an entertainment agency and did that for a number of years. And I've been blessed and lucky that here in the Seattle area, I would get a lot of the calls when a lot of these Motown shows and star shows would come through. So I would contract all the extra horn players and string players, and I would play lead trumpet with the Four Tops, the Temptations, the Spinners, Natalie Cole. I played with Frank Sinatra Jr. I'm forgetting some people now, but I had a lot of opportunities to play shows like that, Wayne Newton. And then I have my own band. I've put out 5 or 6 CDs over the years. At various points, each one of them were on the top 10 playlists of some jazz radio stations around the country and in Europe and Japan a couple times. So I've had a lot of fun doing that. And there's a little bit of family history. My dad's cousin was Ray Wetzel, who was a famous lead trumpet player with Dan Kenton and Tommy Dorsey and Charlie Barnett. So just kind of coincidentally, I ended up being a lead trumpet player, and it's just kind of fun history to know about.
We're going to take just a second because I want to hear Rich in action. So check out this video for a second. So, Rich, I know you have a little bit of a social media presence. So why don't you tell us, where can we find you out in the social media world?
I have a Facebook page that's just about my bodybuilding, and that is facebook.com/Rich Wetzel Bodybuilding. My Instagram is instagram.com/rich.wetzel. And then my TikTok page is tiktok.com/@Rich Wetzel.
Yes, I will definitely post all of those below so you can find Rich online. Thanks so much for joining us today, Rich. Really appreciate it. I want to close here by giving you a few minutes to address our audience and give us some final thoughts.
Thank you very much for that. As far as final thoughts, my big thing is it's never too late. It's never too late to reclaim your health and fitness. It's never too late to really make some improvement. And we see this happening all the time now. My parents' generation, nobody really went to the gym anymore. They were conditioned by movies and TV to drink and smoke. But now you see people in their 60s and their 70s and older who are still in great shape. They still go to the gym. They still eat healthy, and they look fantastic. It's never too late.
Well, there you go, Autumn Athletes. Great advice from Rich Wetzel. Remember, keep moving, set goals, and train hard to achieve them. Thanks so much for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.